Witajcie, znajdujemy się na stanowisku Orange'a. Z nami jest Doug, który opowie nam o nowościach Orange'a na rok 2011. Część już z tych rzeczy mogliście widzieć lub czytać na naszym portalu. Teraz zobaczycie, jak to działa. Doug wam opowie. Hello Doug, how are you?
Hi, good, Peter. How are you?
I'm fine. Can you tell us a few things about the 2011 news from Orange?
Absolutely, my pleasure. This right here is the OPC. It's not talking right now, but it's basically a computer specifically made for musicians. And if you take a look on the back panel, there's a huge amount of what we would call I/O. You've got stuff for your monitors, traditional monitor setup, as well as HDMI. You've got a lot of USB connectivity. These guys are USB 3.0, and you also have 5.1 and 7.1 audio. You've got digital out, both an optical and a coaxial format. On the top here, you have 2 1/4-inch inputs. This is the one that I like to use when I'm recording guitar. This one I can use for guitar, and then you can switch it over to this position here, which is for a microphone for vocals. There's also another USB input on the top here. And it's not just like it's intended to be used to record music, it's really intended to be a musician's PC. It's got all sorts of connectivity, but really it's running Windows. It's your main computer, but it's also the computer used to record music. Comes with what we would refer to as premium version software. Full versions of the software, 2 different recording packages, a bunch of great software to actually play and create music, which is ultimately one of the things we're trying to do. When you've got this much of an interface, the idea is to allow people the ability to control what they want to do. If they want to use digital monitors, they can do that. If they want to go out to powered monitors, they can do that. And the idea is to give people a flexibility. They want to run Pro Tools on it, fine. This right here is the newest amplifier. It came out yesterday. It's called the Dark Terror. And it's kind of the sister of the Tiny Terror series, but as you notice, it's got kind of a dark vibe. And this amp is very special because it's got a lot of gain. That means that it gets nice and heavy, very aggressive. And the shape control is something that's typical in the Tiny Terror line, but it's been kind of tweaked where all the way over here, you get some really great classic rock tones. Up here is kind of some nice aggressive stuff. And here you kind of bring it back a little bit on the gain, kind of another shade of classic rock. And a lot of guitar players like to just plug straight into an amplifier and as opposed to using a lot of pedals, and this is a great amp to be able to do it. You've got your 15-watt switch and your 7-watt switch there. Just toggle back between the 2 of them. As I turn the amp around, you've also got another new feature for the Tiny Terror line, which is an effects loop, which is one of the things that a lot of people have been asking us to do. And so we went ahead and did that. That is your send to your delay, and that's the return or whatever effect you want to hook up in the loop there. It's an absolutely fabulous amplifier. We've been getting some really rave reviews, and we're really, really excited about it. Now, the other thing you'd asked me about was Devo. And it is an amazing system for any of you guys that are into tube amps. One of the challenges is when you change the tubes or replace the tubes, you have to send an amp out to a technician. And it's a box. You know what, can you grab me that real quick? This is a photo of some tubes, hey. But what's the neat thing about this is there's a box that sits inside the amplifier that you have a technician install, and then you can change tubes anytime you want. And one of the neat things is different tubes really are responsible in many ways for the different sounds of famous amplifiers. And the ability to, for example, here, all these tubes in this photo are all the same type. But we could actually put 2 different tubes in that middle position in sockets 2 and 3 and totally change the sound of the amplifier because of the way the power amp functions. And so normally you would have had to send that out to a tech, but once you actually have the amp set up by a tech, you can change the tubes and mix and match them in ways that you've never been able to do before. This is huge for people that are really into the classic sound of a great tube amp. It's going to offer them freedom, flexibility, and one of the byproducts of this thing is it saves a lot of tube life. It's pretty incredible.
Can you foot switch it?
Yeah.
You can? Foot switch? I mean, can you foot switch the tubes?
Ah.
Oh yeah. Let's get back.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think one of the things people want to know is, can you foot switch the tubes? This is a really great thing that you can do with this. If you set up the tubes in number 2 and 3 position with 6V6s, and you put EL34s in number 1 and 4, you can toggle back and forth between those pairs of tubes. If you have a sophisticated switching system, I use a Rockton switching system And what I can actually do is I can wire a single button on my controller to change channels on the amplifier. I can also use that same controller to also switch which pair of tubes I'm going for. So it basically means on my clean channel I can have my 6V6s, and on my dirty channel I can use my EL34s. Now for those of you who that doesn't mean anything, a Fender amplifier is a beautiful clean sound more associated with a guy like Stevie Ray Vaughan, where an EL34 is a nice kind of metal tube. And being able to switch between those two different types of tubes on the fly in an amplifier is something that's totally revolutionary. Guys who really understand gear are going to understand what that means, and it's huge.
Okay, thanks. Chwilkę przetłumaczę w skrócie to, co się tutaj się działo. Na początku omówiliśmy wzmacniacz OPC. Możecie poczytać o nim na naszym portalu. Jest to tak naprawdę komputer dla gitarzystów, posiadający masę opcji, mały komputerek z dużą ilością wejść, z ogromnymi możliwościami brzmieniowymi. Możecie sobie doczytać. Następna rzecz to Orange Doppler, was it? Okay. Który jest jak bratem, że można by powiedzieć siostrą Tiny Terrora, którego doskonale znamy. Różnica jest taka, że ma więcej gainu, troszkę inną charakterystykę i dodaną pętlę efektów, coś czego długo doczekiwaliśmy się właśnie w Orange'u. Ostatnia rzecz, o której mówiliśmy, to system Divo. System, który będzie już teraz jest montowany w niektórych wzmacniaczach Orange'a. Będzie on również dostępny jako całkiem osobna jednostka, którą można zamontować sobie we wzmacniaczu. Polega to na tym, że będziemy mogli używać nawet do 4 różnych lamp jednocześnie, a ten system zapewni nam ich niezawodną pracę, idealną pracę 4 różnych lamp posiadających 4 różne charakterystyki. Ostatnia rzecz, o której usłyszeliśmy, to jest możliwość przełączania par lamp poprzez full switch. Będzie taka możliwość, czyli jeżeli chcielibyśmy na czystym brzmieniu mieć inne lampy, na brzmieniu przesterowanym inne lampy, jest taka możliwość. Myślę, że świetna sprawa dla takich maniaków gitarowych, którzy faktycznie szukają sobie tego swojego wyjątkowego brzmienia. To by było na tyle. 2011 nowości od Orange'a. Dzięki.